Before we get started talking about what Camp Long is now currently, I wanted us to take a moment to honor those who have stewarded this land since time immemorial. And with that, I wanted to introduce Kim Kamara on behalf of Jeffrey Thomas, Muckleshoot and Warm Springs Elder. So Kim's here to do our land acknowledgement.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome. On behalf of the ancestors of the lands we're now standing on behalf of Jeffrey Thomas, Muckleshoot, Warm Springs Elder, the Halliday family, and those that are relations of the Chief Cheshiahu Longhouse villages that were located where now the University of Washington is, where Green Lake, Lake Union, Thornton Creek, Ravenna Creek, Lickteed Springs, a very sacred site, and they fished on the Duwamish River for millennium. So we'd like to take this time to call in the ancestors and acknowledge everything around us here in Camp Long and Seattle-wide and Northwest-wide. So call on the ancestors that are from the east, the Snoqualmie, to the south, Confederated Muckleshoot, Puyallup, Suquamish, Tulalip to the north, Lummi to the north, Swinomish to the north, Stillaguamish. All the peoples that would come and trade and be here, we'd like to honor them as the stewards of these lands, of these waters, of all of the four-leggeds, the winged ones, the ones of the waters, the salmon, the orca. And as we step on these lands, and as we connect with one another, may we know in our hearts, as we acknowledge these lands, that each and every one of you are a steward now. Stewarding this park, stewarding what is here and what is around you, wherever you live, wherever you are. And we give thanks for that. And all the sacred locations. So when you're called to take care of in stewardship, in acknowledgement of those first peoples who have served and taken care of these lands, waters, air, mountains, and everything around us, and of us and in us, acknowledge it. Acknowledge it in your hearts. Acknowledge it in your relationships. Relationships are everything. Everything in Coast Salish country, everything in coastal country. And know too that acknowledge the sacred elder trees and all the trees too. And I just am feeling that acknowledging Camp Long for that there are elder trees located here that aren't in other areas. And just give your heartfelt thanks for that. And so on behalf of Jeffrey, on behalf of his wisdom and knowledge, and he being a steward as he is, I give thanks and blessings to each and every one of you here. It's a blessing to be here, representing him and everyone of Coast Salish land. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim, for that lovely land acknowledgement. Before I introduce my next speaker, I wanted to check in with all of you a little bit. I wanted to see if I could get a raise of hands for anybody who's new to this place. All right, we got a few. Okay. All right. I would also love if folks who have a memory of this place, maybe, to raise their hand, whether that was last week or maybe from childhood. Awesome. All right. Clearly this place has long been special. And so, as I introduce our next speaker, we have a champion of our natural spaces here in Seattle who's going to talk about Camp Long and this gate in particular. So I'd like to introduce Seattle Parks and Rec Superintendent, A.P. Diaz.
How about that for an entrance? Open them up. Yeah. Okay. I want to cut off my foot here. Thank you for the long introduction about Camp Long and all. Can you all? Is this on?
It's just went off right then.
It did, right? All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Excellent. Good morning. All right, take two. First of all, thank you so much for being out here this morning. It's so amazing to see all of you neighbors out here. You never know at these types of events. Sometimes, you know, you'll get a handful of people, and then you have the community that comes out because they're just so hungry and desirous of projects like this in your beautiful community. And so I can just see the joy on your faces, and I've met so many people this morning and just hearing little talks. First of all, what an amazing gem Camp Long is. Right here in the city of Seattle, and it's part of the Seattle Parks and Recreation System. What major city can claim such beautiful land and beautiful, special, idyllic places such as Camp Long? And I know, you know, some of the history of the camp, and throughout the years, you know, certain people with certain eyes want to look at that and can dream all kinds of great dreams for a space like that. But the people that really love Camp Long, who have either attended there or gone there, or who are discovering it for the first time through their children or their grandchildren, really realize how special it is and how wonderful and unique it is to have something like that in the middle of the city right here in West Seattle. And so I just want you to know how much our Parks Department really values this space and sees it as a true gem and something to continue to be preserved and cared for and nurtured. And it's going to be here for many generations to come. And so the work we're doing today is to make it more inviting, more welcoming, and more accessible to individuals. So I just want to thank you for loving Camp Long because it's your passion and advocacy as a community that helps guide and shape us in the decisions that we need to make for the park system. So I know you are a fan of Camp Long, and I just want to say thank you for doing that. I'm also excited every time I get to come into West Seattle. There's kind of a term that I've heard, I don't know if it's true, West Seattle, best Seattle. But I do think it's pretty special in many, many ways. So thank you again. You know, as I mentioned, Camp Long came here today because communities and park supporters wanted us to continue to create a space where we could open up areas for children and adults and seniors to learn about camping skills and environmental values, right? Really important things that set us aside in our city and in the nation. We are a member of the C40 climate cities around the world that have pledged to climate change and to being responsible advocates, not people who just, you know, say that they'll sign on to a paper, but people that are really committed to making changes and really committed to protecting our environment for generations to come. So now more than ever, we have to continue that and really lean into climate adaptation. And this is just one example around us, these living natural trees and the nature, the wellness that it provides, not only for the environment, but also for our own personal health and well-being. And I'm a big champion of parks, as you can imagine. I should be if I had this job. But I truly believe now more than ever is the time for us all to amplify the narrative that parks are essential infrastructure to the fabric of a city, to our health and well-being. Just as important as bridges and highways and all of the big investments we make in the city, we must continue to amplify this narrative, because the one thing we all know, that when we came through in and out of this unprecedented world pandemic, right? The one place, the only place you could go to, and it didn't matter if you lived in Sydney or Rome or Tokyo or Seattle or Vancouver, the only place you could go was your park system. And thank God for that park system, right? Thank God for those wonderful places that we could get into nature and to really just rejuvenate and find respite and calm. So we know the health and wellness benefits, and we want to continue to champion that. I want to thank a couple of our city partners and community partners that have worked with us to establish the project this day. First is the Department of Transportation, SDOT. I don't know if there's any representatives here, but they helped, yeah, thank you. They helped fund the study to improve neighborhood connections through the Southwest Brandon Street, Southwest Finley Streets Trail, and improvements in wayfinding along all of the areas starting in 2021. And just this morning, I was driving in, coming into the back area, and ran into this sweet elderly woman who was almost driving down into the ditch. And I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, I'm trying to find the library, the Del Ridge Library, and my directions are taking me right here, and it's not here." And I looked on her map, and sure enough, she's a little off, but it can be confusing if you don't know the ins and outs of the streets, right? So I just want to say that it's really important that we continue to find connective spaces that are easy so that people can access these wonderful treasures. I also want to thank and acknowledge, this was low, that's why. Okay, I want to also thank and acknowledge a new city partner, but certainly a champion to this area. Many of you may know this gentleman. He's here today with his family, but he's the newly elected council member for this area, Councilmember Rob Saka. Councilmember, thank you for being here today. The councilmember is here as a community member. He said he wanted to just come with his wife and children and see what good things are going on in his neighborhood. But I know you're going to continue to do great things. The councilmember and I, sadly, have had to work on a couple of really tragic issues in the past couple of weeks here in West Seattle. But I've gotten a chance to just know him a little bit. And I know he's a man of great integrity. He's got a heart for people and for the city. And I'm really excited to work with you and do great things here in Seattle. So thank you so much for being here, council member. I also want to thank the design firm who created this entrance, which comes from a lot of reclaimed stone, designed to mimic the entrances to the main parts of Camp Long, and to really just, give something that's welcoming, but in a way that's also very natural and doesn't take too much attention away from the neighborhood. And that was the HB&B design firm. And the project manager is here today, Jacobo Jimenez. So thank Jacobo. For working there. I also want to thank our many parks and recreation employees today. Too many to mention by name. But they are here today. Some of them because they have to be here to set up the event, but some of them don't. And they're just here because they love the environment, they love these spaces, and they're just excited. And which just demonstrates the kind of people that work for the Parks Department are really, really, really angels here in this city. And so please do me a favor. If you're ever in a park and you see any of our workers, just give them a good nod, a thank you. They're here day and night. In the cold weather, in the sunny weather, in the gray weather, and without them we wouldn't have this beautiful park system. So thank you. I also want to thank a local neighborhood association. You guys ever heard of the Del Ridge Neighborhood Development Association? Yeah. Again, these are groups of people that come together through community, through organization, and commit to improving the neighborhood. And again, it's that type of advocacy, that type of relationship with community, listening, knowing the wants and the needs of the people who live here and who are going to use the space. It's really important. So I really want to thank you for all of your members, volunteers, and donors that have made this possible. As I mentioned, Camp Long was built from the ground by people bringing community together and for their resourcefulness. And it's a beautiful, lasting tribute to the aesthetics of the area. I also want to thank and acknowledge an individual that many of you will know by name. Unfortunately, I never had the joy, the pleasure, the honor of meeting one of our Parks and Recreation employees, Sheila Brown. Sheila was the Camp lifelong director for over a decade, 13 years, I believe, and many of you knew her. There are going to be some people talking about her today, so I don't want to share too much of what they're going to say, other than I was just so excited and thrilled this morning when I was walking around. And if you haven't been into the gate yet and right across, you'll notice a lovely memorial rock and sort of plaque that's been erected in her memory. And I was standing there with Karen from my team, and these two women were just coming out from their morning walk, and all of a sudden they just stopped and they went, oh, Sheila! And they looked down and they saw it, and I said, did you know her? And they said, yes, we did. And I thought, wow, her enduring legacy is going to be right here as a memorial for all time. And her beautiful sisters I met this morning are here from New York and California, so thank you for being with us. All right, it's time to continue this wonderful, wonderful celebration. So those are all my remarks this morning, but I wanted to say thank you so much. I'm really proud to be your park superintendent and look forward to working with you for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, AP. We hope you keep Camp Long in your corner as you continue to champion our entire park system. So as AP said, we're going to take some time now to really honor Sheila, who spent a lot of time in this special place. The one thing I want to say before I introduce the next speaker is that Sheila was one of the best listeners I have ever had the pleasure of encountering. And so it's now our time to listen as these folks talk about her and her legacy that she's leaving here. So with that, I would like to introduce Sheila Shapiro, who was a friend and colleague of Sheila during her early years and on.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Superintendent Diaz.
Microphone closer to your mouth.
Pull it up. Yeah, how's this? How's this? Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Superintendent Diaz. Thank you all for coming out here today to this dedication. I'm so happy, really, to be right here in this spot, especially at this time of year, because it's Sheila's birthday week, and today is also the 30th anniversary of Seattle's Neighbor Appreciation Day. And I have celebrated both occasions over many years with Sheila. So may my few words be a toast to Sheila and to this beloved community. I had the good fortune of working and having an office up at Camp Long. I started out here in 1995, how can that be, as the Longfellow Creek watershed educator. And that was before Sheila was its director, but it was through my work on Longfellow that I was really fortunate to meet Sheila. And Sheila was so engaged in this neighborhood. She lived here in the surrounding area. She volunteered in so many ways, and she was one of my, what I will call, star volunteers. And as I look out into this audience, I see many more people that also worked arm in arm with me and with Sheila. So thank you for being here. And it was her sense of place, sense of community, sense of people, sense of kinship, as our first speaker told us, that really brought the magic to the work that I did with her and the work she did with community, and of course the work that she did at Camp Long. You know, she came to Longfellow Creek as a steward from working with Earth Corps, which was an organization working with international and local students and doing restoration work. She worked at Southwest Youth and Family Services as an ESL instructor, always connecting with youth and people of all different ages. She worked with DNDA doing their open space survey, so she knew this place intimately. And she brought, as Matt said, this listening, this curiosity, this love to all the interactions she had with people and land, and it brought her heart to all this. And she liked to be on the ground, but she also had many fantastic organizational skills. So I recruited her to be on the Longfellow Creek Watershed Council, which was looking at broader circles than just being right on the earth, but she could connect both that individual piece with the bigger picture. And so she was, as I said, volunteer that I worked with for a long time. And she had different part-time jobs. And at one point she decided, well, you know, nothing's really gelling full-time, so I'm going to go to New York and be with my sister and her family. And it was a very sad day that we had to wave goodbye to Sheila. But I was still at Camp Long when I discovered that the director was going to be leaving. And I called her in New York and I said, Sheila, this job is opening up. You have to apply to this. She goes, no, I just left. It's so hard to leave. It's so hard to leave. What are you talking about? And I'm like, yes, this job is for you. You have just the right amount of skills and you belong here. So please, at least apply. Then you can see what happens. She goes, okay. So she did. And the rest is wonderful history. But that's how she came back. And as Matt mentioned, Sheila being a wonderful leader, she's always navigating change. I worked for the city of Seattle for 25 years, and Sheila and I were very intimate knowing about reorgs and managers, and no offense to any of that, but it's really hard to navigate that when you're kind of the middle manager or staff person, and she always navigated that with a calm presence. She had tenacity, she had compassion. While putting out daily fires, she always had her eye on the big picture. And most importantly, she always fostered a love and to help grow Camp Long. So citywide, beyond, within the Parks Department too, to really make it visible, to bring that connection to as wide a circle as she could from a very personal, loving heart. Through festivals, programs, working with youth and teens, and also extending it out again to the wider community for community access. Here's that beautiful gateway, creating more access, working for safety on 35th Avenue to make sure there's a traffic light to get across the street, it's such a busy, busy street, and all those again in partnership. So with that, I want to close with an excerpt from a book by John O'Donohue called To Bless the Space Between Us. May we do that? That both Sheila and I love that poet. Let us not look only for you in memory, where we would grow lonely without you. You would want us to find you in presence, beside us when beauty brightens, when kindness glows, and music echoes eternal tones. May you continue to inspire us to enter each day with a generous heart, to serve the call of courage and love. Happy birthday, Sheila. Happy Neighbor Appreciation Day.
Thank you so much for that, Cheryl. I think it's so fitting that we are doing this dedication right here, as we just talked a little bit about Sheila's life and legacy here. We have Camp Long in this gate behind us here, but the Longfellow Creek Trail starts, well, doesn't start, part of it is right there, for those who don't know. So we're literally at the intersection of two of Sheila's legacies right here. So, before I introduce the next speaker, we had a little intro from Cheryl about this, of how important family was to Sheila. And I have to say, she fostered such a wonderful work family while she was here, and I got to spend time with her. But we're going to hear from Sheila's sister, Yvonne Brown. If you want to come on up and talk to us a little bit about Sheila.
Thank you. I'm the sister in New York that she left when she came back to Seattle. But actually, as my husband would say, my sister stank of Seattle. She really belonged here. Seattle is a lot like New York, you know. Nobody's actually from here, but they become from here. And she was really proud to be a Seattle Parks employee, and really proud to do all her volunteer work. I think she met a large number of her friends through her volunteer work and working in the community. And she would have been really, really proud of this gate, which I think I attribute to her efforts. When she found out that she was not going to live much longer, she and we put out a call for donations to fund this gate, and all of you and many neighbors and friends and family contributed, and she was so happy to see that, and to know that it was going to happen. And it's such a wonderful day here to see that it did happen, and it looks beautiful, and we're so proud of her as her family. So thank you to all of you for contributing, and thank you, Cheryl, for such a beautiful poem and beautiful comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. So before we bring up our last speaker, we're celebrating both Sheila and this gate, which meant so much to her, because not only family was very important, but community was so important to Sheila. And so this gate is very representative of the connection of Camp Long to its community. And so what better way to round out our speaking series than one of our biggest champions in the community. So Caroline Borsnick from the DNDA, so that we already heard from. That organization's done so much in this community, and I think it's very fitting that, and I don't know if they're still out there, but there is a group of volunteers working on the Longfellow Creek watershed here right now today. So without further ado, let's bring up Caroline.
Thank you for the introduction, Matt. And thank you, Seattle Parks and Recreation and Superintendent Diaz, and Sheila's family and friends for bringing us on as a partner for this celebration. Again, my name is Caroline Borsnick, and I'm the Environmental Programs Director for Delridge Neighborhoods Development Association, also known as DNDA. And I started environmental restoration work in this community about 8 years ago. And one of the first people I had the pleasure of working with was Sheila Brown. Sheila was serving as the director of Camp Long at the time, but her influence reached far beyond the boundaries of this park. Sheila inspired me, my colleague Yogi Michael, and our team at DNDA to take care of our local environment as a means of taking care of our community. Sheila energized us and our neighboring organizations to uplift marginalized immigrant and BIPOC communities through restoration, youth programming, and opportunities to engage with the land. I want to thank Sheila's family and her sister Yvonne for sharing Sheila's vibrancy with all of us. Sheila's passion stretched across this region, but Camp Long was her home. She established the 4-H Challenge course that runs through this park, helping to bring people together through outdoor activities and games, as well as the Longfellow Creek Legacy Trail that runs through Delridge. Sheila led and supported countless environmental projects that endure to this day. For a long time, Sheila wanted the side entrance gate that we stand at today to be more accessible and inviting. Before she passed away in 2021, Sheila chose to leave her legacy in this community by raising funds for what would become known as the Sheila Brown Gateway Project. After Sheila initially funded the project through a bequest, about 125 community members came together to collectively contribute more than $41,000 to the Gateway. Sheila herself, as well as her family, friends, colleagues, and community partners, helped make this beautiful gate and memorial site possible. This project also provides a model for future public-private partnerships to make positive change on a local level, as DNDA and the City of Seattle did here. DNDA served as the fiscal sponsor of this project, which was initiated by Sheila's family and completed by Seattle Parks and Rec and other city agencies. DNDA's longstanding partnership with Seattle Parks has allowed us to bring volunteers of all ages and all levels of experience to urban forest areas across this region for environmental restoration. The Depending on the time of year, volunteers may plant invasive species, or plant native species, and remove invasive species. Our educators also provide hands-on environmental science lessons to youth at these sites. We actually, as we mentioned, have a volunteer event going on today that you're welcome to stop by and check out. We have Sheila to thank for much of the success of our programs, as she helped develop these very partnerships back when I first met her. It is truly an honor to continue to care for this park, following Sheila's legacy and that of the amazing Camp Long team. Thanks to the relationships forged by Sheila, DNGA's nature team has helped serve thousands of High Point residents and youth over the years, many at this very park. She was not only a supporter of DNGA, but a friend. Sheila worked incredibly hard to make Camp Long the accessible and active space that it is today. She made dreams come to life. So it was an honor for DNGA to help make one of Sheila's dreams come true. Thank you again to Sheila, her family and friends, Yvonne. Many thanks to the team keeping Camp Long vibrant, Seattle Parks and Recreation, and our city partners, Cheryl Shapiro, Kim on behalf of Jeffrey Thomas, the Delridge community, and my DNGA team for showing their love and support today.